It's the greatest time in the world to come into the industry. Everybody you speak to that's a CEO or at any high level C-suite in this business, they went to school for something else. I want people to have an opportunity, right? If you're an engaged person, this is the industry for you. Everybody I know that is in this industry for a long time is in love with it like they love their children. You can do anything in this industry.
That was Anthony Melchiorri, whose new show, Hotel All-Stars, celebrates hotels and the magic of working in hospitality. You're watching Hospitality Daily. I'm your host, Josiah McKenzie, and in this video, we're going behind the scenes to hear all about what Anthony has seen and learned about hiring in hospitality, the skills and personality traits that make you succeed in working in this business, and what it takes to lead effectively in hospitality today. Let's get into it. Anthony, I really enjoyed the conversation that we had last fall. You have a tremendous new show out, Hotel All-Stars. It's phenomenal. Link in the show notes. I want as many people to watch this as possible. I'm really excited to talk with you. So thanks for making some time to speak today.
Well, thank you. And thank you for watching the show. You go to YouTube, Hotel All-Stars on YouTube, and you can see the show for free. You don't have to have the premiere YouTube. It's sponsored by American Hotel Lodging Association. So they paid for it. They want it on YouTube, so it's on YouTube. But it could be on any major Netflix or any streaming service because it's the same quality, same production company I've used for all my shows.
There's so much we could talk about on that, but you mentioned YouTube, and I think that decision to emphasize YouTube is actually very forward-thinking because I think YouTube has gone through evolutions over the years. Now it seems like the place to go. If you look at watch time, if you look at engagement, this is where people are looking. So you are not only creating a compelling show, but you're going to where the people are.
Well, when I first came up with the idea with my team, it was just like, let's shop it. And then we shopped it to like one or two people. I was like, you know what? I don't want to shop anything. Everybody's cutting. Nobody wants to pay for anything. I don't have to do the show. I want to do the show for the industry. So let's talk to somebody. I called AHLA. They funded the show instantly. And so they said, listen, we show them a plan of how we're going to put it out. They picked column C, which was YouTube and streaming service and social media, and they love that platform better. And yes, it's forward thinking. And we've always tried to be. We were the first person with a hotel show, the really only successful hotel show ever. On 9, 10, 11, 12 years, however long. So yeah, it's definitely. I don't mean to be forward thinking. It just seems to be where you're. Even when I did my book, like 10 years ago, I had to deal with Simon Schuster. It took me too long. By the time I got the book, Simon Schuster moved on already, and I was like, wow, why would I do the Simon Schuster? I can just do it on Amazon and everything else, and it's easier and there's less headaches. And we edit it ourselves, and so everything is going to self-edit and self-producing as you're doing now. You're building a name for yourself with a camera and your energy. So everything's going in that direction.
I'm going to link to your book in the show notes as well, because if I think about the book, if I think about your work on television, over the course of your career, you've been an advocate for how exciting the hospitality industry is and how much potential there is for building a career in hospitality. I wonder if we could talk a little bit about the motivations on this new show, Hotel All-Stars. Why focus so much on the hiring, the early stages of a career in hospitality?
Everybody you speak to that's a CEO or at any high level C-suite in this business, they went to school for something else. They went to school for being a lawyer. They went to school for accounting. They did not go to school for hospitality. A lot of them, by and large, including myself. I went for business, even though I wanted to be in the hotel business. So I want people to have an opportunity, right? It's like, the first time I had Johnny Walker Blue, that was my drink of choice. Like and then I was like, oh, I dropped my other drink. And I was like, when I drink, I like Johnny Walker Blue. So I want them to drink at the water fountain. And if they like it, continue to drink because you can make a lot of money and do great things. I was just telling Glenn on our podcast that one night I was at the Algonquin in Tuxedo, dedicating the Noel Coward Suite to his estate with the ambassador to England. And I was representing the Algonquin because I was general manager. The next day, I was tasked with turning around the Nickelodeon in Orlando. So within 24 hours, I went from a tuxedo dedicating the Noel Coward Suite to hanging out in a polo shirt with SpongeBob. And that was going to be the name of my book, Noel Coward with SpongeBob, because that's the industry. I was just telling the story to a company I work with. about how Stevie Wonder, played a song for me when I was younger at the Plaza, and just story after story after story. Everything I get to do in my life, every person I work with right now is because of the show and because of the hotel industry. So, listen, you can do anything in this industry, and I'm just kind of a little irritated with other industries thinking they're better than we are.
Well, I tend to agree with you on that. In the very first episode of Hotel All Stars, it was immediately obvious that if maybe prior experience isn't required, you talked about CEOs all starting in other places. It's not about experience necessarily to get started, build a great career here, but you are looking for certain qualities. And I wonder if you could share a memorable moment from the first episode that illustrated an essential quality that you think is very important for anyone working in hospitality to possess.
Well, there's a couple, but two stand out to me. One, because after it was on the show, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. But I didn't remember that as much as when we were underneath the table. I was with three contestants, and one of the contestants and I were scrambling around the room, picking up confetti and whatever. And she turned to me. And I don't even know if I made the show. She turned to me and she goes, "I love this industry." And then at the end, when she won, she said, "You believed in me," because she came. She had a tattoo in all appropriate and inappropriate places that you can see on her neck, down her chest. She was wearing maybe not the perfect outfit. She had purple hair, and she came as she was. So when I saw her, I don't judge people in this industry, so I just took her at face value. I'm not going to do a spoiler alert, but when I was talking to her at the end of the show, I got emotional. And like you saw a little emotion, but I broke down. I literally had to go to the corner. I broke down because she is not the person that usually gets a job because of maybe the way she presents herself. And people say, I'm surprised you gave her a job because of the way she showed up. It's not the way you show up all the time, it's who you are, right? And the Margaritaville is a fun brand. Maybe it wouldn't be a brand for somebody else, maybe Ritz Carlton or whatever, but Margaritaville is come as you are. So she was perfect. And it was just such an emotional thing that she recognized, and I recognized that her heart was bigger than anything, and she cared. And I would go into battle with her.
Is there anything else that comes to mind in terms of skills or personality traits that are really important to succeed in
The
hospitality? What else are you
skills,
looking for?
the skills is you can't see the problem; you can just see the solution. You have to want to make people happy. You don't have to like people, and you don't and don't take it personally. Just want to make them happy. I've never gotten a bad comment card about myself in 40 years in this business. When I was working at the front desk, when I was a manager, no one's ever complained about me, and that can be tough because I just want to make them happy. So don't see problems, see solutions. This is a solution-driven business, right? So a lot of times we go to hotels and you see the same problem over and over. I'm an expert at finding the solution and making sure it's cemented, and we don't have that problem again. And so if you don't see problems and you understand that you're there not to love people, not even for great service, you're there to make people happy. Whatever the happiness is, maybe getting them an Uber to go to that wake in Texas that they've been in Texas before and their cousin passed away and they have to get a car and you know exactly where it is and you know exactly what time they have to be there and you get them in the car. Maybe you go with them to make sure they get there on time. You're making them happy, right? And you can talk about service, but at the end of the day, they are happy. And that's the number one priority of this business is making people happy, whatever it is. You ask for a folio for your expenses and you print it out and it gets folded in an envelope and it gets put in their bag. And now they're happy. That's done. I don't have to worry about it. That's the priority. So I can train all that stuff to you, but you have to understand that sometimes you have to work a little overtime. Sometimes you have to work weekends. Sometimes you have to work Christmas. Sometimes you have to work New Year's. By and large, you eventually don't have to. I never worked a weekend in my life after. If I take over a hotel 6 months after I worked there, I didn't have to work weekends. And by and large, I didn't work weekends. And people are like, how's that not possible? I just didn't work weekends because I couldn't function if I had to work weekends. That's why I wanted to become a manager really quick so I can set my own schedule. During the week, maybe I worked 18 hours a day. But on the weekends, I was on my phone, of course, but I never was in the hotel if I didn't have to. And if you have a great team, you don't have to. So this industry could be whatever you want it to be. Whatever you want it to be. You want to be in sales, marketing, anything you want this industry to be, it will be. Especially now, that people will work with you. Back in the day, people said, sit in that chair, shut up, and here's your paycheck. If you don't like it, go somewhere else. Nowadays, you get to have flexibility and you get to say, hey, boss, not really loving this. You have something else for me? Yeah. We'll get you something.
It's great to hear more flexibility entering the hospitality business, because I imagine that makes it a lot more attractive to more people that maybe had this preconception of this is what working in hospitality is. You mentioned one of the core capabilities you're looking for is people who are leading with heart. I love the timeless element of that, though, and I think it's something that transcends whatever we're in, whatever part of the world we're in. That is fundamentally hospitality. But you're also touching on some changes. And last time you and I spoke, we talked a little bit about changes in the hospitality industry. You alluded to changes in scheduling, maybe. I guess as you were planning Hotel All Stars, were there other changes in what's happening in the world now that you wanted to incorporate in terms of how you were looking for people, or is it all about this timeless stuff?
It was 100%. Um, do you have emotional intelligence? Okay. If we say intelligence is 100%, okay, 80% of it is emotional intelligence that's going to make you successful. 20% is your ability to think, adapt, and figure things out. But your emotional intelligence, you walk into a room, okay, and you immediately, if you don't feel that room and you don't know what's going on in that room, whether it be a business thing, whether it be friends or family, if you don't know appropriately when to speak, when not to speak, when to move, when to leave, have one drink, not two, because your boss is in the room. If you don't initially understand, you should have showed up appropriately, you should have been dressed appropriately. Don't go talk to your boss and ask him for a favor or a bonus or whatever at a cocktail party. Whatever it is, emotional intelligence will drive the ship more in hospitality than any place else. Yes, you want bedside manner when the doctor's doing brain surgery, but you'd rather have somebody that really doesn't have bedside manner, but make sure you wake up after brain surgery. In the hospitality business, 80% what you're looking for is make me feel better.
Mm.
Know that steak that you're delivering to me. Have tasted it. Know the flavors. Know what temperature it should be at to be perfect. Tell me what I should know, because usually when you're in business or on your vacation, you just want to be taken care of. And if you don't have a servant leadership, and if you don't understand that we're servants, if you have a problem being a servant to other people, this is not the industry for you. Now, with that said, back in the day, you didn't have flexibility, you didn't have good wages, and you were treated not maybe appropriately. Nowadays, it is the best business in the world. The Hilton Hotel Corporation was just named #1 place in the world to work, or in the country to work, a hospitality company. Back in the day, that wasn't the case. So everything has changed. The employees, thank God, are in the driver's seat finally. I've always been an advocate of the employee. I think that's been proven over 40 years. If you take care of people, they take care of you. I don't do anything. I just hire really good people and get out of their way. So if you have a heart, you want to make people happy, there's no secret. I would love to give you some really great talents. Well, if they have a talent, they can, be very flexible with their elbow. That would be great. We don't need that. We need somebody that shows up and don't see problems, see solutions.
It sounds simple, but I feel like executing on that is hard. And one of the great things, again, we won't give too much away of the show. We want people to go watch it on YouTube or elsewhere. But one of the things that stood out to me is how you design challenges to pull this out. I think some of what you're getting at is just impossible to get only in an interview, right? Because someone could just be very rehearsed. I guess I would like to ask you, though, what would be your advice to hiring managers in hospitality to assess if they may have some of these personality traits, or they're the type of person that could do well in hospitality?
Do recognizance from the second they step on property to the second they're in your office, whether it be having security look at cameras, having the assistant that said, hey, please have a seat, whether it be the hiring manager, their first impression of how they got back to them. Did they answer the phone immediately? Were they in their t-shirt when they were taking the interview? So the time it gets to maybe we're really serious about this person, you should have really good reconnaissance on not only going looking at their social media and going to look to see how they present themselves to the world, but how have they treated the employees that work for you? How did they treat the person that opened the door for them? Were they on their phone in the waiting room? I know that's not a big deal. And people are like, Anthony, really? Why can't they be in their phone in the waiting room? I know if I'm waiting for somebody to interview me, my eyes are open and I'm waiting for somebody to come through that door. I'm not going to be on my phone. Again, that's maybe not the best way, but to me, all those will inform the things that you feel in the interview. You're like, oh, that person really wasn't paying attention, or that person seemed to be not really grateful. Well, how do they treat this person? How do they treat that person? Have you ever been to a meal where you sat with somebody and they didn't say thank you to the server? You wouldn't sit at my table again if you did that. My kids are actually, it's a little ridiculous when my kids are adults now, but when we sit at the table, there's 75 thank yous for one person to pour water because I've ingrained it into them. Even at 25, I'm like, did you say thank you? Are you serious, Dad? You're going to tell me to have to say thank you? I've said thank you. I'm good. It's simple, man. It's really, really simple. This is a simple business. With that said, it's a business. So if you're going to be in revenue, you better be good at numbers. If you're going to be in sales, you better understand that there's goals and we have to focus on those goals. And you better have a way of doing that, right? And learn that, and we'll train that. If you're in the front desk, you have the ability to be able to do 5 things at once and look like you're not doing it. So there are hard skills that you need to know. But if you don't have the basis, there's a lot of careers that you can have all those hard skills and not have and sit in your cubicle. But in the hospitality industry, you're fighting for, as my friend said yesterday, you're fighting for shelf space.
And I guess just building on that, you mentioned some specific things that you're looking for in a great candidate. Was interesting to me watching the show is there were a number of mistakes made, and watching how you handled those mistakes. And it looks like even the ones. I wonder. I guess my question for you is: can you speak to? It could be in general terms, but could you speak to a mistake that a candidate made in the pilot episode, and how you addressed it?
As soon as I got on camera, as I'm walking on to the camera, I haven't met these candidates. I don't know anything about them. I've never been, well, the Breakers I've never been to, but Margaritaville had. So I don't know what the hell's going on. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just trying to figure it out. So I walk up, and all of a sudden, my producer says, "Hey," I said, "Were they any of them late?" She goes, "All 3 of them." I'm like, what? It's okay. And then I get up, and then all of a sudden, this gentleman is in a wrinkled shirt. And I said, "Do you have an iron in home?" And he said, "I do." And I said, why didn't you?" He gave me a BS excuse or whatever. But I didn't throttle him. I didn't get upset. I didn't tell him go home. And after I was done interviewing him, I told my producer, I said, "I'm really irritated right now because they're late and I want a meeting right now." And so we went to another office. They're setting up the camera. And all of a sudden, the producer comes over and says, "Hey, he asked for an iron. He's getting his shirt ironed." I said, "Great. Just make sure you film it." Did you ask him to iron it? Because if you did, I'm going to get mad. He goes, "Nope, he did it on his own." And he was very upset. So he wanted to make sure that he did. Now, should have he done it before? Of course. Should they have been late? Of course. But we're dealing with young people. We've all made mistakes, right? I would say I was not going to an interview with the wrinkled shirt. I will tell you I was never going to be late for an interview. However, I've made other mistakes that people give me a break for. So I didn't want, and plus it's not that kind of show. It's not a gotcha show. It's like, this is a show of what do you got? Do you have what it takes? And the number one thing, if you're asking for something that I really look for is, please make a mistake and then own up to it. Everybody makes a mistake. People that don't make mistakes are just not telling you. So make the mistake. I don't care about mistakes. I can give a crap less about mistakes. But I have zero tolerance for someone that blames somebody else or says, "No, I didn't make that mistake," because that's it. It's over. Make a mistake. Who cares if you make a mistake?
Well, I want to make sure people watch the episode to watch how you handled the situation too, because there's a lot of lessons there in tough love and helping someone. And it was very clear watching the interaction that just transpired over a moment or two, but where it was clear on the show it wasn't a gotcha moment. But I think even in general, as a hospitality leader, this is an opportunity to take advantage and for it to be a learning moment, right?
The whole time you saw my heart. The whole time you saw my heart, because that's how I manage, right? It's like, I'm going to call you. Like, one of the things when I'm running hotels, I'll say, "Who made the mistake?" And I'm like, "No, no, no, we're going to fix it." I said, "No, no, no. Who made the mistake?" And eventually they realize I'm not going to get upset at anybody. Who made the mistake? Because I go to find the person who made the mistake. And this is the first thing I ask them. Did you have the tools? Yes. Were you trained? Yes. What happened? I had my head up my butt. No problem, man. Having a good day. It happens. Don't worry about it. But I want to make sure they have the tools, and I want to make sure they have the training. Because if they didn't have the tools or training, my manager's not going to tell me that. Right? And so I want to know, whoever made the mistake, did they have what they do? I can give a crap less about the mistake. but do you have what you have need to not make that mistake again? Because
Yeah.
a lot of times managers cover their own butt.
I've definitely seen that. I wonder, I mean, just to this point of do you have what you need? It brings to mind how we think about training in hospitality. And I wonder if you could speak, not to the individuals that were in the show, but just in general, what you're seeing, what you're hearing in the industry now. Are there common themes in terms of gaps of awareness that hospitality leaders should focus their training on to close those gaps?
People are so exhausted because we can't find people, and they're just trying to put bubble gum in holes. That and the first thing that goes is the budget for training. Right? They have to put the budget into finding people. So number one, training is, I think, at an all-time low in our industry right now. That we need to really focus on it. I think it's coming back strong. I'm seeing things done in different brands. Number two, stop with the computer learning. Like that could be if I'm going to do 20 hours of training and I do 10 on computers, okay. But if I'm doing, 20 hours of learning and all of it's on the computer, like, are you kidding me? Like I will get on a plane for a meeting because you do much better. We do much better when you and I were in person at the Algonquin. It was much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not saying this isn't great. This is great, but it was much better. It's just so we've got to focus on it. Where focus gets done, right? Focus gets done, and you got to put money into it. We spend more time, and what's the cost of getting and finding people, right? I tell a story about a year ago for a person that I worked with. I was how can I say it without outing this person? I was a brand person for someone. Let's put it that way. I was a spokesperson, and this person was fantastic. Whether it be a contract, a check, whatever it was, this person just was always in my corner and was always just facilitating. It was fantastic. And that person needed a little bit more time at home instead of they wanted everybody in the office 5 days a week. And this person was like, I just had a new baby. I want to stay home 2 days a week. And they said no. And they lost a superstar. Really?
Hmm.
You proved that you can do the work at home and you just lost the best person that I've worked with in the company. And so a lot of that's changing now. I think people are starting to see that. But it's the greatest time in the world to come into the industry. And if you don't get the training, I've been trained once when I was in Overland Park, Kansas. This guy, Tom from the Midwest, trained me on how to clean a room and maybe a little human resources. I've been trained maybe one day in my whole life. Okay. I've never been trained. I've never sat down at a computer and said, okay, this is training. Never. I've been thrown into the fire. That works for my personality, right? I would have loved to have been trained a little bit more, but I literally wasn't trained. So we're famous. When I was at the Plaza Hotel, there was no training. There was no training room. I had to start it and develop it. But now the brands are 80% of all the hotels. So there's a lot more training, but it's got to be off the computer, a lot less on the computer and just a lot more, in person and a lot more examples.
These days, how are you thinking about culture in hospitality? I think you touched on a number of elements of it, but I guess just broadly speaking for the leaders that are listening to this, what would be your advice for creating a strong, healthy, effective culture as a leader in hospitality?
Culture is done through action. It's not done through a policy book or a motto. It's done through actions, period. So I don't even like the word culture because it's so overused. Your culture is what your employees tell you it is. Okay? Your culture is not what you think it is, it's what your employees tell you it is. So Hilton did not beat a drum about culture. They walked the walk about culture. So of course they spoke about it. Of course they talked to their manager, said, "This is what we want to do. These are the benefits we want to give. We want to kind of be, maybe first in flexibility." Whatever they did, but they didn't just pontificate about culture, right? Their employees started saying, "This is the best place to work for." They have to do those reviews when they're asked. Their employees told them, not the CEO. The employees said, "This is the best place to work for," right? And so to me, if you're sitting in a room developing a culture, you probably don't have a good culture.
Yeah, well,
The
and
culture, of course,
yeah,
is outlined. You have to know where you're going. But if you're overemphasizing meetings about culture and you're spending 6 months developing a culture, good luck.
Well, I think even watching Hotel All Stars, you get a sense of how culture can be shaped from the very earliest, from how you select the people that are going to be working on your team, how you're training them. You touched on that, the environments that you're leading in each organization, whether it's on the hotel level, at a corporate level. And so culture is pervasive, and there's such an opportunity here to differentiate.
My crew, from all the years I've been doing this, was with me. There were two new people. There was an assistant camera guy and a camera guy, and they were son and father. And I never met them before. I don't even remember their name, to be honest with you. I wish I did. They were on set for 3 days, and they came to me at the end, and they said, "We've never been on a set that cared about us like the way you care about us." Every morning, I said, "You need coffee? What do you need? Is everybody okay? You have your equipment?" And it wasn't like, "Oh, I'm trying to impress them." It was just, that's who I am, right? It's like, what do you need? Now, if they weren't good at their job, 30 seconds in, they would have been off their job and I would have got somebody else. But they were good. And immediately they felt what the culture is on my set. The culture on my set is everybody's important. When I'm about to shoot, I'm the most important person in the room, and everybody be paying attention to me. When I'm not shooting, which is a lot, everybody's more important than me, right? Because at the end, you're not talking about the camera guy, you're not talking about my producer, you're talking about, "Hey, Anthony, I liked how you handle that." So when we call action, I'm the guy. When we're not on action, I'm a servant to everyone. And that to me is the culture of the set. I remember when we first started, the day players, nobody would, they say, "Hey, get that guy, the PA, tell him to get coffee." What's the PA's name? Like, if you don't know his name, don't ask him for anything, or her. So anyway, so you build culture by actions, not by pontificating.
Well, it's so great and it's so applicable anywhere. And what I'm hearing from you is you're showing hospitality. It's not just I'm running a hotel in this capacity, right? You're creating media, right? You're still showing hospitality. And I think a big part, as I understand it, of Hotel All Stars is getting people from other industries to see the potential of hospitality, and a career opportunity. But I think for
If you're
folks
an
listening,
engaged, if you're right,
yeah,
I'm sorry,
yeah,
I
well,
didn't
go ahead.
interrupt you. If you're an engaged person, and you have to like people, you have to like getting stuff done. This is the industry for you. Everybody I know that is in this industry for a long time is in love with it like they love their children. I don't know any. It's challenging, but I don't know anyone doing it as long as I do that doesn't love every single thing they did in this industry, even the moments where it were hard, even when they had bad bosses. I mean, I was just talking to somebody yesterday that used to run Rich Carlton, and he is the funniest, happiest guy. He got story after story after story. He's wonderful. We all have stories and we all have great experiences. So if you're thinking about this industry, you're thinking about being an accountant, marketing person, whatever you want to think, come in the industry. Because if you want to work in Hawaii, you can. If you want to work in Portugal, you can. You want to move your family to London, you can. And when Hilton buys brands like Nomad and buys brands like Graduate, you're having more fun now. It's not just cookie cutter Hilton, cookie cutter Marriott. You can work at the Ritz Carlton. You can work at all these different hotels. So if you can find a brand that fits your personality, you can find a brand, whereas before it was kind of more cookie cutter. Now you can find a brand in a country and a philosophy that fits what you want to do. Listen, we need nurses, but you know what a nurse is going to do. In this industry, you don't know what you're going to do.
It gives me a lot of excitement about the future of hospitality. Anthony, thanks for walking through that. Where would you point people to learn more about you, your work, Hotel All Stars?
Just Google my name. But YouTube, Hotel All Stars on YouTube. Please go check it out. Please subscribe. Please, most of all, I never ask people to do anything really, but I need everyone to subscribe and read and then send it to people. Share it with everyone. It's because this industry, if this industry supports it, this show will continue. This show doesn't continue if this is not supported because this is funded by the hotel industry for the hotel industry. And if we're not seeing dividends where people are coming into our industry, I'm not going to be able to raise any more money. So it comes down to raising money. No one's ever done a show. I was talking to somebody the other day who's been on TV for a long time. And they said, you're doing something that no one's ever done. You funded the money, got the money, and I don't need to pay it back because it's for the industry. Number two, you produced it, you hosted it, and you developed it with my team. And you having it on YouTube so you don't need a production company. That hasn't been done before, ever. So it stops here if people don't share it.
And it's a service to the
Because
industry, regardless of where you are listening. If you're running a small hotel, if you're a corporate executive at a high level, you're marketing the industry, right? And you're going to see benefits of this wherever you are in the country, wherever you are in the world.
I will tell you, I made a little bit of money that paid expenses. The expenses that I took to raise the money, the expenses I got on an airplane, dinners, things like that. But at the end of the day, this is not a money thing, right? If we do 100 more, this is not a money thing. This is an industry thing, okay? This is about getting people to fund this that have a stake in the game, right? And so if you don't share it, if you don't tell people about it, it ends at the breakers, right? That's it. So we are going to do more, but we need help.
Anthony, thanks so much for taking time to chat and share your insights on this.
My pleasure. It's always a pleasure talking to you.